The Nikon D750, a true performer of its time and regarded as a great camera for photography, but not just professionals, but beginners and hobbyists alike. However, that was a long time ago. We live in the age where mirrorless cameras are the go-to for a photographer. With amazing features in both the photo and video department, mirrorless is the way to go. But what if you're like me? Yeah, like me. A D750 in 2025.
You serious?
Now, who uses a fossil like that? Well, I do. Hi everyone, my name is Ronit Nandi, and today I'm going to be sharing with you my experience with the Nikon D750 and if you should consider buying a Nikon D750 in the year 2025. Now, I've been doing photography for 3 years now. It's going to be 4 years really soon. And I started this whole journey off with the Nikon D750, and it's currently recording this video right now as we speak. So, if we go straight to the point, this camera is absolutely beautiful for photography. But only if you know how to use it. If you don't have the skill, if you don't understand how to use cameras, if you don't know how to adjust the Kelvin white balance, if you don't understand how to use picture profiles, if you don't understand how to adjust the ISO or the aperture, well, this camera is not going to have your back. If you're someone who would put the camera into auto mode and expect the camera to do everything for you, well, no, this camera is not going to do that. Because this camera is quite the manual camera, to be honest. In terms of photos, this camera is going to do everything you want it to do, given the fact that you're going to tell it what to do, right? Just to put into comparison what you're dealing with over here is there are only 51 points of focus on this camera in the sensor. The sensor itself is a full frame 24 megapixel sensor. This camera comes with an X-Speed 4 processor from Nikon. And to put into perspective how much of a generational gap you're dealing with compared to the modern lineup, the current lineup uses X-Speed 7. So there's a pretty big generational gap here, but do not let that generational gap put this idea in your head that this camera is not capable. This camera is properly capable of taking amazing photographs, given the fact that you know how to put in the settings. You've got the focus point set to the right area on your subject so that when you half click it focuses, and when you fully press the shutter button it'll capture that beautiful image for you in absolutely clear detail. Now, if you think that maybe a DSLR can compete with the current mirrorless cameras, well, the D750 kind of comes in at that point and proves everyone wrong, because I've been using this D750 rigorously in all types of situations, from wedding photography to concert photography to indoor portrait photography, outdoor portrait photography, street photography, you name it. And I've used this rigorously alongside other mirrorless cameras like the Z6 II from Nikon, the Sony A7 III, the Sony A7 IV, the Nikon Z8. Now, I've competed with those cameras, right, using this camera, because the quality that this captures is comparable to mirrorless cameras. Yeah, it's not gonna be like a mirrorless camera, obviously, because this is a DSLR camera, it has a mirror, but you can produce a result which is comparable to that of a mirrorless camera. My point is basically that you can compete with mirrorless cameras in terms of photography using this camera. So if you get that feeling that, oh boy, it's a DSLR, I don't think I'll be able to go up with those mirrorless cameras, well, you can in terms of photography, because I personally have, and the stuff that I've produced with this camera, the images, they've both satisfied me and my clients, and no one has ever really complained or said anything about the quality of images that this camera can take. Yeah, I get it, it's quite old. It is not, as modern as those mirrorless cameras. It doesn't have a bunch of autofocus gizmos like face detect mode, eye autofocus detection, or subject detection mode. It doesn't have 200 plus autofocus points on its sensor. But if you have the skill, right? If you have the skill, you can really make up for it. Because this camera, in terms of photography, is always gonna have your back, given the fact that you tell it what to do and you have the knowledge about what you're doing. Now, where are you gonna start seeing problems with this camera in terms of photography? Because I talked about the good stuff. You can get good stuff out of this, but it does have its cons, okay? In low light situations, you are gonna see some noise, okay? If you think that you can boost up the ISO and get a great image like those mirrorless cameras, no, that's not happening. If you have the option of a tripod, you can really adjust the shutter speed to get more light. Yeah, that's one way you're not gonna get a whole lot of noise, but if you don't have the option of a tripod and you're dealing with a low light situation, sometimes you can't really get a great result out of this camera, because the modern mirrorless cameras, right, they can take clear photos even at 12,500 ISO, and this is getting noise at 6,500 ISO. So that's like basically half of what you're going to be able to do in low light regarding noise in your photos. Now, it's not like it's undoable, right? You can get great low light photographs with this camera, but you need to know how to set up the light. If you have the lighting right, you can use this camera properly. It's going to capture everything properly, because the 24 megapixel full frame sensor that it has inside it really has a good ability to capture detail. I mean, I've captured stuff which I thought that, oh boy, they're dark. It's dark, it's not going to be visible. But when I put it into post-production, into the software which I use for editing my photos, when I adjust the shadows, what do I see? It captures detail even in those shadows, and it's absolutely clear most of the time, right? So it has that great ability of capturing that detail properly. Now, if we move aside from photography, because in photography it does really good, at least in my opinion, it does really good. If we go towards the video, now here is where all the problems start coming in. In video, the maximum quality that you're going to get out of this camera is 1080p. The only bad part about this camera, which not just me but a whole lot of people would say is horrible about this camera, is its autofocus system in video. It is slow, it is unreliable, and it does not work properly. In photograph mode, it works beautifully, because you can tell it where to focus and it'll focus on that exact point where you're setting your focus point in the whole 51 area mode of the sensor where all the autofocus points are. But in terms of video, it doesn't work at all, because to get proper video out of this thing, you really have to put in a whole lot of manual labor. You have to constantly keep adjusting the focus ring on the lens to get proper focus. That's the only way you're getting video out of this camera. And it's not like it's undoable. I'm currently recording this video right now using manual focus. Yeah, I had to get up 5-6 times to check if I'm in focus or not, but it's worth it, because I've done a whole lot of video work with this camera too. Behind the scenes of music productions, I've done wedding videos, I've done a few cinematics, I've done a few short films for people, I've recorded a bunch of YouTube videos for a few people, I've recorded my own YouTube videos, and if you know how to use manual focus, it has your back. And if 4K isn't your requirement, this camera has your back. If your client or if you yourself are okay with using 1080p, it has the ability to capture very beautiful 1080p, but the focus is where everything comes down to, because even the slightest bit of misadjustment of the focus ring, and if you're at 1.8 aperture, you're out of focus. You're absolutely out of focus then. So video, yeah, if you're someone who has a whole bunch of video work, I'd say avoid it, okay? Because in video, the only way you're going to get any result is if you constantly keep tinkering with that focus ring, and if you have your eyes glued to the live view of the camera. Only then it's going to be working out. Colors and image quality is beautiful. If the conditions are right, if the lighting is good, the video which can be produced from this camera is absolutely beautiful. But like I said, you have to keep tinkering around with the focus ring. And another thing which is a bit irritating regarding the whole video thing is that you can only record 10 minutes per video, okay? Right now, if this crosses 10 minutes, well, my video is gonna get cut. It's gonna stop recording. So there's that 10-minute limit that you're gonna have to deal with if you're thinking about making videos with the D750. And honestly speaking, this camera really isn't made for capturing video. It can capture video, but it's not prioritized at all to make video. Yes, its priorities are taking photographs, and it does that absolutely amazingly. So in my experience of 3 full years and almost now 4 years using this camera, especially in the age of where mirrorless cameras are the talk of the town, they're the preference of every single other photographer out there, can you use this camera? Is this a viable option for any photographer in 2025? Well, yes. If you have the skill, you can make up for it. In terms of photography, you can absolutely make up for it. This takes beautiful photographs. This camera is capable, but it all depends on the end of the day if you have the skill and if your conditions are right to get that kind of a result to compete with mirrorless cameras out there. So if you're okay with the whole manual labor thing, this camera has your back any day in terms of photography. So should you consider buying one in 2025? Yeah, if you are someone who's looking for a backup camera, who doesn't want to, break the budget and get a mirrorless camera, because the D750 is, going pretty cheap in the secondhand market where I live at least. So you can get a D750 for pretty cheap. You can use that as your backup camera. And especially if you're a beginner and you're serious about photography, if you really want to get into photography, I myself, learned how to do photography using this D750. And nowadays, after using this for so long, if you give me any camera, I can use it easily because I know what settings I have to do, what I have to use, and what I have to look for when I'm using a mirrorless camera or any other camera to be particular. So if you're a beginner and if you want to learn, how to use a camera, what it takes to take a good photograph manually, then 100% get the D750 because you're getting a full frame sensor, you're getting something which is totally reliant on what you're telling it to do, and you're getting something which, once you get the idea of how to use it, can produce very beautiful images. In terms of video, yeah, it has you covered, okay? If your client doesn't require 4K video, if 1080p is okay by them, and if you are capable to keep your subject in focus manually, then yeah, in terms of video, this also has your back. But once again, this camera requires manual labor. It doesn't have any autofocus gizmos. It doesn't have that, subject detection mode and so on and so forth. But if your main focus is video, if you do not really want to put in all that hardcore manual labor, then well, don't go for a D750. Heck, don't even go for a DSLR. I'd say just go and buy yourself a mirrorless camera and be satisfied with what that does for you. So at the end of the day, the D750 is still usable in 2025. If you know what you're doing, you can use it. If you don't know what you're doing, you'll have to learn, you'll have to go through a whole lot of trial and error. But that's honestly the fun of it, That challenge that comes in front of you, that you're going side by side with someone who has something much more advanced than your camera, and it's pretty much a challenge to the user to see if that guy has enough skill to produce something which can be put side by side against something which is technologically much more advanced than the D750. And to me, that is the fun of it all. That is the fun of photography. Putting a whole bunch of effort behind one photograph. That is where it counts, because every time you're going to look at that photograph, you're going to get satisfied and remember the hard work you had to do to get that photograph. In mirrorless, well, it does a whole lot of stuff for you. I've used the Z6 II, the A7 III, A7 IV. Yeah, those cameras do a whole lot for you, okay? But I'm happy with my D750 right now, honestly. So do tell me in the comments below if you use the D750 in the year 2025, what's your experience with it, or if you are considering buying one. So yeah, I hope this video was informative for you. I hope you found this useful, and that's it for this one. And I hope you guys enjoyed hearing my experience with this beautiful camera. And once again, for the last time, if your work is video, totally video, don't even look at this. If you're only photography based, 100% look at this camera. So that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.